The opposition party in Montserrat victorious in general elections. And in sport, Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister urges the Football Federation to improve the sport. I'm Ricardo Roberts and this is Caribbean in 10 for Tuesday, November 19th, 2019. I'll be back with the details after the break.
Let's take a trip to the markets on Liberty Avenue in Queens, New York.
Sea-Trek was one of the first outfitters in Baja 35 years ago. We started running trips down there in the mid-80s, early to mid-80s. At that time, these were kayak expeditions, sort of old school trips where you loaded everything in the boat and off you went. Exploring coastlines, no permits, no rules, no regulations. And over time, we refined the trips.
We begin in Montserrat, where the main opposition movement for change and prosperity, NCAP, reversed its 2014 electoral defeat and won yesterday's general election. Outgoing Premier Donaldson Romeo, who had been ousted as leader of the incumbent People's Democratic Movement, weeks before the polls was the only successful independent candidate. Now, according to preliminary results issued early today, MCAP, which is led by former Agriculture Minister Easton Taylor Farrell, won 5 of the 9 seats in the Legislative Assembly, while the PDM, headed by the outgoing Communications, Works, Energy and Labour Minister Paul Lewis, won 3 seats. With 95% of the votes counted, NCAP's Creston Buffon led all of the 35 candidates in the election, receiving 1,311 votes ahead of Lewis, 1,195, and Taylor Farrell 1,149 votes in the island's single constituency, 9 votes per person system. Romeo has polled 1,009 votes so far. Among the casualties of the election was the former Speaker of the Legislative Assembly, Shirley Osborne. She was one of 2 children of the late former Premier John Osborne, who contested the election. The other child, David Osborne, was successful as a candidate for the PDM, receiving 908 votes. Dominica's Prime Minister Roosevelt SKERRIT today strongly condemned last night's protest outside the residence and that's the official residence of President Charles Savarin last night, and called on the opposition United Workers' Party, the UWP, to do the same. Police fired tear gas to disperse people who had gathered outside Savarin's residence, demanding electoral reform ahead of the December 6th general election. The crowd had gone there after attending a public meeting on the outskirts of the capital where the issue of electoral reform had been discussed. In an address to the nation today, which is nomination day, Prime Minister SKERRIT described the behavior as gangster-like.
At the beginning of this election, I called for peace, order, respect for each other, and for property. The church in Dominica made similar calls. Today, I repeat those calls and urge for the level of irrationality and irresponsibility being demonstrated by the UWP and its supporters to stop. The UWP must distance itself from this recklessness and call its supporters to halt such further actions. No responsible political party which is seeking to form a government would engage in this kind of dangerous conduct. No one who cares about or loves Dominica could be part of this or want it for our country.
Barbados' Prime Minister Mia Mottley has asked for a meeting with the island's sole electricity provider, the Barbados Light and Power, and its parent company, Emera, to discuss power outages that have affected the island over the last 2 days. MOTTLEY has described the issue plaguing the island as unacceptable and embarrassing. She says the operators of the country's power generation plant has to provide answers about the state of its equipment. For the past 2 days, Barbados has been hit by crippling power cuts that have had a ripple effect on the pumping stations of the Barbados Water Authority, causing water outages as well. The power cuts have also forced the closure of schools and some businesses. The United States Embassy in Trinidad and Tobago is warning citizens to be wary of a scam involving the use of its telephone numbers. In a statement, the agency said it had become aware of the scam after members of the public said they were receiving calls with U.S. Embassy Port of Spain telephone number listed as the caller ID. The caller claims to work from the embassy and either demands money or offers contract work. But the embassy said it does not demand money from individuals and follows strict protocols. And it urged people who receive these fraudulent calls to report the matter to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Services Fraud Squad. And stay with us, your Midday Sport is next.
I'm Jed Curtis from Jed Curtis Entertainment. I'm the executive producer of the company. Do monthly comedy show with Bob Sumner in Williamsboro, New Jersey. First Saturday of each month. I heard about the event through Rob Schwartz from Humag Multimedia TV, and he invited us down. He said it'd be good for promotion and push my brand. What am I looking for at the event? Help promote, push my brand, network.
Pissed off, woo, diamond dancing, yeah, they grip walk. Ain't no lame brain that run the game with the slick talk. Cut you off like a electrical company.
Feeling for your touch, not your love online. Give me something realistic.
I can move in a room full of vultures, boy. Yeah, my body different, I'm a shooter, but I snipe though. Her body...
Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley is calling on the executive of the country's football federation to improve the sport now that his government has made an investment with the opening of the body's new headquarters in Couva. TTT's Kent Fuentes has that story.
With just over 2 years of planning and execution, the 72-room home for football and income-generating facility will officially open on Monday. Addressing the opening, Prime Minister Rowley said the investment by taxpayers into the construction of the facility demanded that it begins to lead to improvement in the sport.
Having partnered with football to make this public asset land available to you and money available to those involved in the management of the game, the taxpayers can expect no less but a dramatic improvement and the full use of this facility in the vision in which it was presented and in the way it has been built for the purpose for which it was designed.
He said government continues to play a role in the development of sport, but he highlighted what he sees as a key issue with sport in our Twin Island Republic.
What is missing is the management that we used to have when people serve for service sake and produce from it the talent that was waiting for that helping hand. Today, ladies and gentlemen, if we are familiar with failure, it is in the area of management of our sport.
And that's Caribbean in 10. Join us again at 6:30 for Caribbean Newsline. Until then, good afternoon.